Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Uncapped podcast, brought to you by Roast House Pub, one of Frederick's finest craft beer and culinary destinations, where great people come to drink amazing beer. Visit them at roasthousepub.com to track their taps and menu, or download the digital pour app to track their tap list on in real time. That was a poorly read last sentence.
It works. Job's done.
Yeah, and joining us this week is the sleepy Colin McGuire,
I'm not sleepy.
the very awake and animated
Very
Colin
happy.
McGuire.
Yeah. Hello.
And joining us are the two fine gentlemen, Tim Scoutin, also known as Scoutin,
Also incorrectly pronounced Scoutin. Yep.
and Rahul Cherian, whose name I've never pronounced wrong,
Yeah, that's weird.
of Goonda Beersmiths.
Yeah. My name is two English words pushed together, Scout and 10, and his is ambiguous, and you nailed it. You got it.
It reads easier. Also, the sun was very bright that day, and the text was small, and there was so much chaos going around, and I already knew that it was a complete debacle. So
What, at Waverly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Waverly.
What an awesome disaster.
It was a fun disaster. I really struggled with whether I should have uploaded that episode, but I did.
You got to let it ride. When you got the boys, from Shelfies on there, people know what to expect.
Yeah,
A little bit of chaos.
Yeah, I feel like anyone really listening to that one probably, if they didn't know what kind of people they are, they knew right away. And by that, I mean just goofs.
Yeah. With Boston accent. That would just turns it all up a notch.
That takes it to 12.
12 out of 10. But
So you two are the owners of Goonda Beersmiths.
yep, me and Rahul started the project in, I don't remember, 2015?
End of 2015, yep.
Started talking about how we can make more beer that we're passionate about. As contract brewers from Peabody Heights, that's our day job. We make a lot of beer for a lot of people, but it's hard to be passionate all the time when you're making everybody else's recipes, and sometimes they take all the credit. So we just said, what can we do to, be a little bit, brewing is a very creative thing, and we have specific styles of beer that we like to make, and how do we go about doing that? And so Rahul came up with the idea to buy a huge pilot system and put it over in the corner of Peabody Heights, and we went to Dick and Eddie and Mike and everybody in the office and the ownership over at Peabody, and they just kind of greenlit it, on a handshake deal, just to let us start putting our beer out.
So how long have you guys been at Peabody Heights? Well, you were still, Tim, you're still at Peabody Heights, and you recently went full-time Goonda, Rahul.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've been at Peabody Heights. He started 2 weeks after me, so that was I think early 2015.
Yeah.
So it would have been February 2015. So that puts us about 2.5 years into professional brewing. Mm-hmm.
So Rahul, what were you doing? But see, I'm going to make you talk.
Okay.
What were you doing before you became a professional brewer?
Prior to the stint at Peabody, I had done a stint with Bang Hound in Rockville years ago, and then I was bartending in between. And anybody can tell you there's not a lot of money in brewing, but I was passionate about it, so I figured I'm going to go back into it, and I applied to Peabody, and we both ended up there.
So did you take one of the normal routes of as growing up, you got into home brewing?
Yep.
And then you...
Yeah, pretty much just a big beer fan, and one day I was just driving past MD Homebrew, and I figured why not, so I just bought a bucket and started, and quickly became an obsession.
Awesome. And you, Tim?
So I was working when I got married in 2012. I couldn't really find a job in the field that I wanted to work in, and we had moved to Maryland recently where my wife was a teacher, and our friends, the Weckers.
What was that field?
Pastoral ministry. I have a bachelor's degree in Bible, which is interesting.
That's
Surprising.
fairly hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah, we always joke that like Jesus turned water into wine, I turned water into beer. So a little less miraculous, but a little more delicious.
Less Jesus as well, I'm going to say.
a little bit.
And I've only met you once and had a semi-long conversation with you, but I'm going to say a whole lot less Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it's still in the realm, just a lot more swearing and a lot more drinking. But yeah. Anyways, so my friends, the Weckers, they own a bunch of restaurants. So they own the Iron Bridge Wine Company in Columbia, Maryland, and they own Mutiny Pirate Bar and Island Grill, which is in Glen Burnie. They're actually moving it up closer to Route 2 soon, so you'll probably hear about it then. But it's a rum bar. They have about 150, 160 different rums, which makes them the largest rum bar on the East Coast. There's only a few in the country that kind of contest that number, and they're all on the West Coast. And they put me to work bar backing there, and pouring draft beer and doing everything the bartender told me. And I got trained as a bartender. I started taking over the infusions and things like that. We did a lot of house infusions with fruit and different ingredients, and I just kind of fell in love with craft everything. It was first cocktails and rum, and they have 12 taps over there, and 6 of them are normally local craft beer. One of the first beers that I really liked was actually Red Scent Amber Ale, which is a beer that's made by Peabody Heights and under the label what's it called?
Public Works.
Public Works, sorry. And just falling in love with how ingredients and how things play into a finished product. And then from there, I did some catering. I've been in the bar industry for a long time. I started working at World of Beer in Baltimore, the first one in Maryland. And when I got trained there, that's a really cool place to catch a training because they put you through the ringer. It's a Cicerone, beer server level of training in terms of glassware, prep, and everything that goes into pouring a proper beer. And then from there, one of my customers, I was working a day shift on Tuesday, and my friend Brian came in, and he said that he had just got an email from his homebrew club, I think Baltimore Brew, and that Peabody Heights was looking for brewers that they didn't have to have any experience. And so I just submitted a resume, and Ernie hired me. And 2 weeks later, he hired Rahul, and we started kegging and got into the brew house and worked our way up, and now we're essentially the head brewers at Peabody Heights.
So something I've never thought to ask anyone before. What is the interview process like for becoming a brewer?
The interviewing with Ernie is a lot of apologizing for how little they're going to pay us. He's like, how much are you making an hour right now? And I'm like, I don't know, somewhere around $30 an hour. He's bartending, so you work short shifts, big money. And he's just like, yeah, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And
you're gonna make a lot less.
Yeah. And so it's really cool. With Ernie, he's such a low key dude. He really just wants to see if he thinks you can learn. He's a teaching brewer, and he really likes to train people with no experience because he wants people to brew the way he wants them to brew and not bring a ton of experience in that's going to muddle the water between opinions, because there's a million ways to make beer, and he has his processes. He wants to train you with that. So if he thinks you're malleable, you're willing to come learn and work hard, and that's how it was. It was very, very simple with us, and short conversation, trip around the brewery, introducing me to people as if I was hired, and that's kind of how it goes.
So you don't have to take in samples of beer you've made?
I think it's definitely varies from brewery to brewery. Some people
Absolutely.
are looking for people with a lot of experience and knowledge of the science, and some people just want people they can mold so that they do things their way. And definitely Peabody Heights was that way. They just wanted somebody who they thought would fit in personality-wise, and yeah. So basically, it was just more trying to get a sense if they thought we were good people or not.
So you've been working at Peabody Heights, and what made you want to start Goonda?
Just like I said, a little bit was that we just have a very limited amount of creative control in the brew house over there. It's a big system. It's a 30 hectoliter system, and
what's that in real numbers?
What is that in real numbers? That's actually 25.5 barrels. Unlike what Ryan actually from Guinness was saying, that 100 hectoliters is 107 barrels. That's not correct at all. It's actually 15% less because there's 26. But
Goonda versus Guinness.
Yeah.
We'll see who wins that.
No, we've been throwing shade at Ryan since he got here. He's a great dude, and he's been very open to taking the criticism because he knows it's out there. He's been taking it on the chin, and it was a great interview. He just we're brewers, we know the math, and and he doesn't.
Well, he's probably not used to an obnoxious person every time they say hectoliters. Like, no, tell me that in a real number.
Yeah. I mean, that's everybody we've ever talked to.
Yeah.
We also work in centigrade and Plato, unlike most breweries, work in specific gravity and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably used to professionals talking to him, and
Sure.
like people who are trained to interview properly and not be obnoxious. So-
Yeah, not be like, enough of that European bullcrap. Can you just
We're
give
in
it,
America.
give it to
I
me
want real
American?
numbers.
Yeah. So we're actually a 30 hectoliter system. The cellars, we have 90 hectoliter tanks and 120 hectoliter tanks, and that pretty much equates to 75 barrels and 100 barrels when you shake it out. So there's not a lot of creative control for two different reasons. One, we are primarily a contract brewer, and two, because it's a big scale. You don't really get to play around or try something weird on the big system if you've never tried it on a smaller system. And so one of the things that Goonda does is it essentially pilots beer for Goonda. It's all Goonda beer, everything that's over there. It's on our system that we own. It's on our time. But what that beer has directly influenced the things that Peabody Heights is making.
So are there other brewers? How many other brewers does Peabody Heights have?
So 3 currently.
And who does the recipes for the Peabody Heights branded beers?
It's a kind of a community of people.
Okay.
So that we have our brewmaster Ernie Egot, and he has made all the recipes essentially for everything that Peabody Heights has done, including Old Oriole Park, our Bohemian Lager. We have a light American Stout. We have a bunch of them. We were running under the name Baltimore Brewing Company for a little while. And then also the Public Works lines. Those are all Ernie's beers, essentially. A little bit of influence, too, from Eli Brightberg-Smith, who's currently the lead distiller and part owner of the Baltimore Whiskey Company. And he was there. He's the one that trained me and Rahul before he left to go distilling. So a lot of those recipes, especially the early ones.
They're moving to the Union Collective, right? Yeah,
that's right.
Their video was hilarious.
It's amazing. Just Eli sitting in a bunch of barrels, like writing a letter. They're ridiculous. Eli was one of the founders of the Bros, the Baltimore Rock Opera Society, and if you haven't seen a Baltimore Rock Opera Society show, you have to. It's ridiculous. It's live rock music. It's kind of hair metal and like craziness, and then they have a whole play that goes with it. Normally has a lot of inappropriate stuff in there too that we probably shouldn't talk about. But yeah, they're great. But anyways, Eli's a creative, and when it comes to, he's also an incredible brewer and distiller. But when they come up with stuff between him, Max, and Ian, they're such dorks. They do calendar shoots, with their shirts off and wearing like visors and weird stuff, and just flexing around all of the equipment, all 4 pieces of equipment that they have in the distillery. They're ridiculous. But anyways, Eli and Ernie collaborated on a couple of the early recipes too. Once the Peabody Heights line came out, the first beer that we did with that, it's kind of a rebrand essentially. We've always been Peabody Heights Brewery, but they've always operated underneath a myriad of other brand names, which is ridiculous. And one of the things that we said for the longest time when we first started was to Dick and Eddie, the owners, you got to have a Peabody Heights line. What are you talking about? Like, how hard it is to explain what Peabody Heights is to people when they've never heard the name. And then if they have heard of Public Works or they have heard of Old Oriole Park, that even muddles the water even more. And then you bring in contract brewing and you say Full Tilt and Raven Beer and all those companies. Now they're even more confused. How about we just have a brand? And so the same person that did our artwork, Montana Bowman, for Goonda, actually did the rebrand for Peabody Heights, which includes the baseball diamond, the pH, and everything. And so the first beer off that was Thursday. And all of those early beers that we did were all derivative of Goonda recipes, primarily Rahul. He's our kind of the recipe writer. So pretty much all of the newer beers that have come out have if they're not directly our recipes, they're influenced heavily by what we've been doing over there, except for Togi, which was made by Graham Chrysler, who is one of our other brewers. Togi's a amber lager. And then the Saison was written by Ernie, but then, just the haze craze, the mild dry hop, and the chamomile, all those things, and a couple of tweaks from Rahul.
So how do you decide what's going to be a Goonda beer and what's going to be a Peabody Heights beer?
Well, Goonda beer is brewed on Goonda's system.
Okay.
Peabody Heights beer is never brewed on Goonda's system, and only sometimes is Goonda beer brewed on Peabody Heights system. And
I mean, like, so for Rahul, I guess not anymore, but were working on recipes for both entities, was it just like Peabody Heights is more of they seem from the descriptions more of a traditional type of styles.
Well, their brewer is very traditional.
Where Goonda is just, you're making whatever the heck you want.
Yeah.
So we're invested in both. You know, we obviously own Goonda, and we want that brand to do well, but we were putting out, say, like Thursday, they want to put out a big juicy pale ale. They'll come to us and we'll go over what we've done at Goonda and come up with a derivative recipe. There's no real clear division, but typically what we tend to do on the Peabody scale is not quite as out there as some of the stuff we'll try on the Goonda scale. But really, the root of all the recipes comes from the same point.
What does Goonda mean?
Oh, Goonda is just it's an Indian word. It means like the troublemakers. It's where goon, it's like where goon came from.
Did you know that, Chris?
I did know that.
Oh. Well, then that's my last question. Goodbye.
I'm glad you jumped in because I was wondering if you did have any questions. You've just been sitting there
So you're
quietly.
Well, we're at the Uncapped building sponsored by... Okay. He almost hit me. He almost hit me. Did you get that on camera? So it's the troublemakers. You guys are the troublemakers.
Yeah, I think that kind of plays into, you know, who we were when we were younger, who we are currently in the industry, you know, and just a little bit of how we act at Peabody as well.
Do you ever want to, would you ever want to go back into the sort of pastor thing? Go back to the Bible?
I still go to church. I still am really active in my church. I go to National Community Church in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's complicated, you know, as most things in life are. But yeah, I've never felt like I was going to be a traditional pastor or leader of a church where you stand up every Sunday and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I really have this, I have a calling to help people and that doesn't always look, you know, at leadership and helping people does not always look like what it looks like from the pulpit. You know what I mean? It's community service. It's community advocacy. It's leveraging your brand and what you do to help people. And so maybe that means a nonprofit brewery or a nonprofit arm of our company at some point. But we'll see.
A nonprofit brewery. Does that exist currently?
There are a few.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know of any, Chris? Since you know everything?
No.
No? What, can you name some?
I can't.
Oh.
It's a very like Portlandy thing.
Oh.
But there's a couple that I have heard about, and I actually sat down with a group, a co-op group at Red Emma's in Baltimore, and talked about it a little bit. And they told me about it, which was really cool. And I actually have a friend that is that's planting a church in Nashville, and he's in the music industry. He's a recording artist, and he's planting a church. And he had the idea of somehow making, a lot of churches, like our church in D.C. actually owns a couple of different places. They own a movie theater, their movie theater church. A lot of our locations, they meet in movie theaters. It's a mobile church. And they also own a coffee shop called Ebenezer's right by Union Station in D.C.?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And amazing place. They have offices upstairs. They have a showcase space downstairs where they have local concerts and stuff like that. Kind of that watering hole theme, be where the people are. It's a pretty biblical concept, and so I don't think that Prohibition had a weird influence on church in the United States, where there was a direct connection with alcohol and the devil, and I don't think that there's anything in Scripture that makes that connection. In fact, you have literally the focal point of that religion that's turning water into wine at a wedding just to make people happy. I don't think that's
it seems
counterintuitive. Yeah, it's really dumb. But anyway, so the same idea, watering hole, coffee shop. Coffee shops are easy. Why? Because caffeine is a drug that the church likes, and but there's other drugs that they frown upon, at least in our area. And but the idea of having a tavern, you know what I mean, like a tavern or a public house. It's a place where people used to go. There were rooms for rent. It was a place where you'd come, you'd hang out during the day, drink some pints, eat some food, find some local connection, talk to people, and then why can't that be a part of the modern scape as well? And why can't a brewery be involved? So,
go ahead, Chris.
I think now would be a great time to pour another beer.
Cool.
And I can use that time to talk about the great events coming up at Roast House Pub and thank them once again for their...
Did they pay for that cough in the opening read?
Yeah, that was extra.
Yeah.
Actually, they get a discount.
They get a discount now.
So, as always, the Uncapped podcast is brought to you by Roast House Pub. If you're listening to this live, tomorrow, September... Thank you for the coughing, Colin. That's helpful. Tomorrow, Tuesday, September 26th, there will be an Oscar Blues taco beer dinner. Congratulations.
That's right.
To
Who won?
I don't have the name.
Chris.
There were 3 people
Oh,
who won.
my goodness gracious.
They asked not to have their names read.
You're the devil.
And there are 5 courses paired with 5 different Oscar Blues beers.
Ooh, what are those?
I don't know. And on September 28th at 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. will be the 3rd iteration of Mom's Spaghetti Dinner. Do you know about that, Colin?
I do.
Do you know what Mom's Spaghetti Dinner is?
Spaghetti.
It's when 2 breweries come with their mother's spaghetti sauce recipes, and the patrons of the Roast House Pub vote whose is better.
Can I say who the breweries are?
You can say who the breweries
Is it
are.
Lancaster Brewing?
It is.
And if I was to guess, I'd say Red Shedman probably.
Those are amazing guesses.
Man.
You
I'm
are
a listener.
Wow.
You're much more useful than Colin is.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm ready to go when you are.
And then, as
To the
always,
spaghetti dinner, because it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
That's right.
Seems sad that somebody's mom loses.
I know.
Yeah.
Why is everything a competition in this world?
Also, I'm going to go Lancaster Brewing. I feel like that they're just a little homelier. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. But
they're like right in the Amish country.
Yeah.
You just it feels
Lancaster.
Yeah, it feels like if any place is going to produce some good home cooking, it's going to be Lancaster.
shoe fly pie and spaghetti.
It's not Lancaster. It's
Lancaster.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Although Red Shedman is from Frederick and on a farm, so
They make
have
good
that-
beer. I just
they
don't
have
know
that-
about their spaghetti skills.
I have no idea their spaghetti. Well, I don't know either their spaghetti skills. But if you go to Roast House Pub on September 28th at 4 p.m., you can find out about their spaghetti making skills.
Are you inviting me to go with you?
Everyone is welcome to join me except for Colin. And as always, visit roasthousepub.com for tickets and information of all their events. There's an events tab. Also, you can check their tap list and how much beer is left. And hopefully at some point you'll be able to see Goonda's beer on that tap list.
They have reached out. So, and we promise someday when we're bigger that we will get beer out to Frederick more often.
I don't think you should wait that long.
Okay, you got about $500,000 so we can do a build out so we can get beer out to Frederick on a regular basis.
I don't have I have a small percentage of that, like whatever $5 to $10 equals.
We'll take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just give it to us. I swear it'll expedite the process of getting beer to Frederick if you just give me $10.
This is Monument
Yeah.
and back to the podcast.
So, have you guys
back.
had Monument
We're back.
on?
I have
No,
not.
For the
we have
camera?
not. We have not had Monument on.
Is that
yet.
on the camera right now?
I don't know.
Yep.
So we got Nobo, which is northbound, which is a phrase that they use on the Appalachian Trail, which is something that Matt and Ken hiked on a pretty regular basis. I think they're brothers, owners of Monument City.
Did they do the whole trail?
I don't think so. You have to have them on. They have quite a story, but they did a large section of it, I think, together. I know Matt did, and then they like once a year they do a camping trip to kind of figure out where they want to be with their company and stuff. And so this is just an influence from that, and it's a hazy New England pale ale, dry hop throughout fermentation with Citra.
Is that a new style?
It's a new style if you've been under a rock for the last 5 years. But if you haven't been under the rock, it's an old style officially.
So people like these?
I think so. I think so because it's literally the only reason Goonda is successful. So, yes, they do like them, and but it's really good.
Yeah, they turned out well.
Yeah, this is their first attempt at this.
This is delicious.
Yeah, I think so too. Really approachable, very smooth. I was just hanging out with them Saturday. They gave me a 6-pack on my way out the door, so I figured I'd bring it, share it.
This is very different than most of their other beers.
Absolutely.
They're like everything else I've had from them is much more malt forward.
I think that's definitely the way they started. They wanted to make the sort of beers that they love, which are more traditional styles, and make them well, which they have been doing. But you kind of have to do one of these, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't. You'll get left out.
If Mike McDonald at Key is making New England pale ales, I think it's everybody's turn to make New England style beers because
They're making good ones too.
he does.
Yeah.
It was so good. I got to taste all of it, which means nobody poured me any.
I
So
passed the can
thanks.
that way, so
Well,
thanks
Chris-
for making zero effort for reaching out to it.
He was too focused on coughing and mocking me, so
No.
that got in the way of.
I'm committed to
quenching his
making
thirst.
this a grade A podcast. Do you guys listen to the Uncapped podcast a lot?
I listen to it almost every time. Yeah, I was listening to it on the way out here with Peter Francho and Liz Murphy, some of my favorite
So which ones have
Maryland
you
people.
not listened to?
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the Guinness one until it just clicked on following the Liz Murphy one. Peter Francho episode. Everything's a Liz Murphy episode if she's going to be on it. She's a powerful figure. But yeah, I just hadn't had a chance to listen to it. I listen to way too many podcasts. I exclusively at the brewery, headphones in, ignoring everybody and playing podcasts on my phone. So
Yeah, actually, there was one quote from, before we move on from the transition from just being full Peabody Heights to also doing Goonda. There was a quote that you made, Rahul, when you were on the Naptown Pintcast,
Oh no.
where you said, no,
he's
it was,
like, I spoke on the podcast?
it was like, it was hard to cut down the 5 or so minutes worth of words that you spoke. But you said, I'm upset that the beer I want to be drinking, maybe I haven't found yet. And I just thought that was, it kind of almost could apply, though, to the entire craft beer industry and like to fans themselves, because everyone wants to try that next thing. No, like, there are obviously people who have their favorites that they always go back to, but so much of craft beer culture is just singularly focused on finding what is that next new beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what's been so exciting about the whole American beer scene. I think a while ago it was, here's how people make beer. This is the way beer is made. You can come enjoy it. And then America had this spirit of, no, we're going to toss it up and try something new. And I think that's when the whole craze started. Everybody, hey, let's figure out what we can do next.
We're going to take the style books and just catch them on fire.
Exactly, and try something new. I think it's always great when people adhere to styles and try to work within the framework of the existing norms, but sometimes you just have to try something new entirely. So I'm excited for whatever comes next, whether we figure it out or somebody else does.
Right. It's just as exciting wandering into Monument City and seeing that they, blew the doors off of what they'd been doing to try a new style. And they have one called Sobo coming up next weekend, too. It's the double IPA version. But we're just excited for Maryland beer and beer in general. It's, you say like, oh, the public's always searching for that next beer. We are doing the exact same thing. Not only are we searching for it as consumers, but we're searching for it as producers as well. We made 25 beers our first year, 1 barrel batches, and we liked pretty much every single one of them. But the next one was always better. You know what I mean? The next one and the next one, the next one. Until, you come across a beer like Don't Feed the Trolls that people just love, which is like our West Coast like New England style mashup, where it's still got the bitterness that a lot of the New England beers are missing, but also that creaminess and the just pungent hop aroma too. That one is a beer that was the first beer we made twice. We made that beer and there was such high demand for it that we made it again, and then we made it a third time and we canned it. It went in a really cool can. Our designer, Montana, is incredible. He's always making us look way more legit than we are, which is something we talked about when we came in here to sit down with Chris. The setup in here for the podcast, and it's amazing. And it's always a fake it till you make it thing with most industries, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
So I had started to tell before an hour or so ago, Graham, the story of Don't Feed the Trolls, and then working backwards. You want to tell that story?
So we've told the story on 3 other podcasts because it's a good story.
It's a great story, so who cares if people keep hearing it again? Yeah,
shout out Craft Beer Review Podcast and Naptown Pint by Liz Murphy. If I could throw your competitors out there, if that's a thing. Just like craft beer, I mean, I don't think people have enough to drink or to listen to, so it's always cool to have
new. And we're always looking for new ways to ignore other people around us.
That's exactly right. If you see me like anywhere, like walking through a grocery store and I just laugh hysterically out loud like a crazy person, it's probably because I'm listening to some wildly inappropriate comedy podcast. Anyways, so so the story starts with me not giving any care to what other people think about what we do or what we say. with the Goonda thing. And so I came out with a beer last fall. I don't know if you guys remember this presidential candidate we had. He then went on to become the 45th president of the United States. His name's Donald Trump. And he is both orange in color and absolutely full of shit also. And so we actually had a pumpkin beer that we came out with called Trumpkin, orange and full of shit. Now, it's a pun because Trump, pumpkin, because he looks like a pumpkin, and also because he's orange and he's full of shit.
It works in so many different
There's
angles.
So many facets of hilarity. And so we did that, and the internet did not like it. You'd think that being Maryland, being gerrymandered a Democratic, state, you'd think we'd be pretty friendly to making jokes about candidates of different colors.
Turns out.
No, yeah. And so we had a bunch of Yelp reviews for Peabody Heights Tasting Room, which we're not connected directly with them. We're employees over there, but, they pour our beer. They also pour Full Tilt's beer, Raven beer, and they don't get to decide what we do when we name a beer. So people were yelping from Ohio about how they came in the tasting room and they didn't get to try the drinks or the food because they were ridiculed by the staff and the patrons. And so it's like, which is just hilarious on so many levels because, one, we don't serve food, but also there's our...
So that may have been the main reason that they weren't,
Yeah.
other than not being there actually, but...
Yeah, being in Ohio while you're writing Yelp reviews. Our tasting room is one of the most community-based tasting rooms I've ever seen.
I actually didn't even know they had the internet in Ohio.
I know. Yes, they do now. Trump has provided that for them. And so, we have a tasting room that's so community oriented. It's just children. I call it Chuck E. Cheese night on Friday. It's literally a 2-to-1 adult to child ratio. Little kids just running around. It's sort of a nightmare if you're not into that sort of thing. But if you are a person who's looking for a place to go have a pint and a safe place where your kid can go read books on our bookshelf or play with toys or run around a little bit, it's a pretty great place. So it's a reverse characterization of that place that anybody that's ever been there would never characterize it as a hateful place. And two, it's just hilarious. And so we had Yelp reviews. We had people screenshotting my Instagram and emailing to Eddie and just finding our events, link on our website to try and get in contact with somebody to say, I'm glad there are other breweries that aren't, polarizing 50% of the or 49% of the voting public. And it was just hilarious. And Eddie was going to respond, and I was like, nah, man, don't feed the trolls, which is, the next beer we released was our double IPA, Don't Feed the Trolls. And so it has a great namesake, and it's a delicious beer. So
I think the most valid criticism of the Trumpkin was somebody who said, wait, are they putting shit in their beer?
Yeah.
and then we're like, all right, yeah, that seems
It's
fair.
a valid question.
I mean, it's got nutmeg and vanilla and allspice and clove, and it's got a lot of shit in there. But no physical shit.
Ask Colin what he feels about pumpkin beer.
I really don't like pumpkin beer.
It seems to
That's a
people
valid
seem to be
thing that you
going
can
that
feel.
way.
Yeah, I really don't like it at all. The Southern Tier beer, Pumpkin, don't like that. Do you guys like that?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
a lot.
Well, I don't feel good about myself now.
It's okay. I'd say that you are, if the voice of the internet is any reflection of the buying public, I think you're in the majority. I don't think that's true, but I think that a lot of people have gone away from pumpkin beer. I think as they've gone away from, I don't know if they've gone away from it, but as they've gone in a different direction with their obvious in-your-face flavors, I think they've gone away from pumpkin pie being one of those flavors. Now they want tropical fruit, tropical punch, pineapple, mango, all those other things that are going to be obvious and then misconstrued as egregious 3 years from now. But Southern Tier Pumpkin, 2013 or 2014, is one of the best beers I've ever had. Most well balanced. If you're saying you don't like pumpkin pie beers, that's fine. But if you're saying that that's a bad pumpkin pie beer, then you're crazy. And so I actually the brewer over there, Dustin Hazer, who wrote that recipe, he's now with Helio Basin in Phoenix, Arizona. Very talented brewer. I'm friends with his sister. The beer went kind of sideways the following year, and I didn't like it. It was very burnt nutmeg. And then they kind of fixed it. They worked it out since then. So
Have you never liked pumpkin beers, or is that a recent thing? Because it seems trendy that nobody likes pumpkin beers.
I don't know that
anymore.
you ever really had them before I
never
made
had
you,
really.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, I had never tried them until I had to write for the Uncapped publication sponsored by the Uncapped building, and I did not
which is
like
a thing. It's a building now.
the other pumpkin beer I had was the Rogue beer, the Rogue Pod. Have you guys had
I've
that?
never had that one.
I have, yeah.
What do you think of that?
It's not as balanced, I don't think.
Ooh.
But there's different levels of beer. So there's two different ranges for pumpkin beer. I don't know why I'm going off on a tangent. It's
There we
my
go,
favorite
yeah.
style. But there's
Colin's fault.
this is the former bartender in me, where people are like, "Oh, I don't like IPAs." Because, and I'm not saying that this is a characterization of you. It's just a characterization
are.
of the buying public. I mean, it's obviously is, but
Yeah.
so
Shots
people
at
are like,
me.
I don't like hoppy beer. I don't like IPAs because I don't like hops. And I'm like, well, you're ridiculous. Every beer you've ever had has hops in it. You're just saying I don't like bitterness. And so, like, a lot of
I
times,
love bitter.
right. And so, but now it's about finding the right IPA that suits the person, right? Some people like bitterness. Some people don't like bitterness. We tend to target much lower bitterness or IBUs than most breweries. But it's the same thing with pumpkin beer. So gourd beer is a traditional American style. It was invented in the United States because it was a resource that was available. It was a source of sugar and starch that could be converted and made into alcohol. And so that's pretty much what people do, right? They take whatever is available and they make
Anything
alcohol
that
out
has
of it.
fermentable sugars and
Yep.
throw it into a...
Exactly. Pick a culture, whether they have sugarcane or they have agave or they have whatever source of sugar they have, alcohol is going to be produced from that, whether it's grapes, apples, whatever fruit. And so there are also more traditional pumpkin beers out there too, where they don't spice. They just use pumpkin. And what flavor does pumpkin have? Have you ever eaten pumpkins? Nothing. Yeah, it tastes like water. It's squash. That's a pretty cool thing. It actually adds a pretty cool texture. It has some weird pectins and stuff that are contributed to the beer. But then there's pumpkin pie beer, which is the other end of the spectrum. That's your Schlafly pumpkin pie beer. It's you got, and then you got the other end of the spectrum too, or I guess if the spectrum was a triangle, where you have the Fear from Flying Dog, which is like a, F your face, like, stout, or is it a porter or stout? I can't remember.
It's neither. It's
an ale.
It's not a dark beer.
Yeah,
It's like
The Fear
like
is?
an imperial.
Oh yeah, you're
amber,
right. My bad.
sort
It's like
of-
an Imperial
like
Oktoberfest
almost. It's almost like an old ale with pumpkin spices in it.
Okay,
It's
somebody's who makes that then? Well, Warlock from
Warlock
Southern
does
Tier,
it.
but there's somebody else. I feel like
Flying
locally.
Dog had some... I don't remember.
Elysian makes a dark pumpkin.
Yeah.
as well.
I thought it was somebody locally. I can't remember.
No, I think at one point Flying Dog made something
Like a
that
dark
was-
pumpkin beer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
remember what it is though. Yeah,
But-
I don't. I like pumpkin beers, but I hate nutmeg. So I definitely do not like.
See, I'm the
any-
opposite. I don't necessarily like pumpkin in the beer. I like the spices.
Right, vanilla. I'm all about clove and allspice. That was a carryover from me being obsessed with the fall. Coming up on October 1st, where I'll be binge watching Harry Potter films with my wife. Our dog's named Sirius Black, so I really like the fall, and I
Oh,
really
yeah.
like Harry Potter.
Wow.
But like,
That went over my head on so many levels.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Okay, go ahead.
it's okay. Most of this is. It's
Okay.
all right. And shots fired. Anyways, so like, I just like pumpkin flavored stuff. I'm a basic person apparently.
Well, you
Let's just summarize: Jesus, Harry Potter,
Yeah,
pumpkins.
yeah.
That's right.
That's Tim.
I love that. I'll take that every day of the week. But
So, before Colin shamelessly asks you, does Peabody ever have bands perform?
they do.
Colin's in a metal hair band.
Oh, really?
named-
Don't you have to
it's called
have?
Dawkin. Yeah. I just cut it off though.
Oh, did you have long hair?
Well, not really. No.
It was more
So a hairless
of like,
metal band.
It was probably closer to like a homeless
Yeah.
haircut.
Homeless
like-
chic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be able to
Yeah.
play a show for mostly children?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
All right.
Toddlers are your like target audience.
Yeah.
Nora
Yeah.
actually is in our theme music is Colin's
really?
band.
That's awesome.
Double
motorcycle.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to be a cross between Trisha Yearwood and
Dawkins.
Most Def.
Dawkins.
Most
Yeah.
Def.
Most Def. All right.
Most Def. He doesn't go by that anymore.
Yassine Bey.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's in South Africa still, I think.
No, he's
he
supposed to
back?
be in Baltimore like next month.
Really?
Yeah,
That's pretty
it
exciting.
is.
I'm a big I like most stuff. But he was trapped in South Africa for a while because he was trying to use a passport that doesn't exist. It's a really good technique for getting into international travel.
It usually doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
No.
So I love the names of your beers, like the ones you haven't listed yet. And well, actually, the only beer of yours that I've tried is OG.
Okay.
And that has also it's an Indian phrase. Is that
well,
correct?
G is just a
GJI.
term of respect
Okay.
to your elders or something, and it kind of fits into OG.
Being
So-
that it's original gangster.
Yeah.
An OG is a person that has much respect on the street. And a G, or I don't know what phrase it is.
Kind of same thing.
Yeah. So
And it also looks like orange juice. So
Yeah.
OJ,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was absolutely delicious.
Oh, thank you.
But also so you have both.
both, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Give Colin a rundown on what that means.
What's both?
Both is to be both drunk and high at the same time. It's a phrase that's found in hip hop. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's also a track between with Gucci Mane featuring Drake, where the hook is I don't usually do this unless I'm drunk and I'm high, but I'm both right now. So there you go. Both.
And then you have trap.
You really
Trap.
like hip hop.
Trap.
6 traps. Yeah.
Lost count.
Yeah, it's okay. You start saying it, and I have to do it in threes, like chunks of 3, or otherwise I'll mess that up. Yeah, that was a beer that we collaborated with Wet City, which is a pretty amazing 20-tap craft beer bar in Baltimore City in Mount Vernon. They have unlike most craft beer bars, they have a very modern feel. It feels, it's very bright in their wood.
Do you know who else is an amazing craft beer bar with 20 beers on tap?
Roast House Pub?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so anyways, it was with Wet City, and that was an IPA. What was the hops?
Denali
Denali
and El Dorado. No, Kohatu and El Dorado.
Kohatu and El Dorado, and then we used gooseberries in it, which is fruit that I didn't know existed, which kind of looks like a grape, but it's pretty tart.
Do they come from a goose?
Yes, it is a goose's berry.
Nice.
Yep, it grows right on a goose, and so
Are they
we
harmed in the harvesting of them?
no,
Or is it
they actually like it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we used gooseberries and then black limes, which is
Another thing I've never heard of.
yeah, black limes are sun-dried limes, and they have this really, really perfumey lime aroma that you really can't get from even fresh limes, from citrus zest or juice. And it's a really unique thing, and you don't really need to use a lot of it. But it's also an ingredient in Indian cooking and things like that. So, which is part of the influence why we do things.
So speaking of collaborations,
Mm-hmm.
you recently did one with Union.
Yes, we did. We've done 2 collaborations last week. The Baltimore Magazine does a reader poll every year, and they asked people what is the best brewery in Maryland, and you had to type it in. It wasn't like a list, and we won. We tied with Union Craft Brewing, which is ridiculous because on this camera right now are the only 2 people that have ever worked for and never taken a paycheck from Goonda. And Union has a marketing team and salespeople and a presence, so it just to be mumbled in the same conversation with one of the most respected breweries in the state and probably the most respected brewery in the city was a really cool thing. And so John, one of the owners, reached out and said we should make a beer together in collaboration.
Yeah, I hear you guys are good.
Yeah.
So says readers.
Yeah, I've heard that we're the same people. No, and so he reached out and we said, "You read our minds. Like, but we don't go around telling people to collaborate with us. We don't have anything to offer. So we just kind of wait by the phone until our friends call us. And so we did a double IPA. We talked to Kevin, the head brewer there, and we spitballed some ideas of doing some like really traditional styles with a dry hop, or we were talking about doing a smash up. Someone will steal this idea if I say it, so I'll just say it anyways. Doing a smash beer between 2 of our hits, right? So we'll do like double duck pins grist with Trolls hopping, or maybe their Imperial Stout. We have an Imperial Stout called. We have a couple of them. We have one called Night King, which is really cool, and then we have another one in collaboration with 2 of these are both stouts, and they both have references to Game of Thrones, which I just made that connection in my head. But so we have Night King. Which was an Imperial Stout that we put iced coffee in. Night King is an ice person, zombie. Anyways, and then also a Stout Has No Name, which was a stout that we brewed with the guys from
I think I like that name
from
better.
Wine Source, yeah, and that was a beer that we brewed because they gave us an Eagle Rare 10 barrel, which is Buffalo Trace products, a really great whiskey. They gave us a barrel, and so we made this double mash imperial stout.
How many hectoliters is that?
In a whiskey barrel?
Yeah.
It's just over 2 because there's 25. Like I said earlier, there's 25.5. 26.5 gallons in a hectoliter. That's 100 liters, and a whiskey barrel is around 55 gallons. Anyway, so math. And
better be getting these right, otherwise
yeah,
Ryan's gonna
Ryan's going to be emailing me. He has my card. We'll talk. So we did that imperial stout, and then we made it to put into that whiskey barrel, and then we also took part of it out and just aged it, in the keg. And we also took part of it out and put it on vanilla and blackberries. So there's 3 different variants of a stout has no name, which also lends to the characters from Game of Thrones who they change faces. So
Colin loves stouts.
I do.
That's
I
all he
do.
ever talks about is
Chris
stouts.
told me for my birthday he had a very special stout he was going to give me, and my birthday was in April. Ask me if
April
I've
what?
had April 18th.
that's my birthday.
No, it's not.
It is
So
my
funny
birthday.
story about that stout. I did have one for him.
Yeah, and you drank it.
No, I did not.
You gave it to me for my birthday, which
Yes.
is the same day. Got it. Yeah.
No, I left my refrigerator unattended while my in-laws were watching my daughters. And
shade.
when I came home, that is what my father-in-law had decided to drink.
Wow.
What was it?
It was a barrel-aged stout. What was the name of it? I don't remember the name of it.
Wow.
The guys at Wine Source gave us a taste of our favorite barrel aged.
So yeah, I don't have that for you anymore.
You can
Thank you.
give him your father-in-law's number, and they can chat and just
Yeah.
tell you how it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
I
give
don't
you
We'll
a
give you the
review.
tasting
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in on that. What's your favorite mainstream beer?
How do you define mainstream?
Like not craft.
Ooh, none of them.
None of them.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
actually.
do you mean like amongst Bud Light and
Yes.
other? Oh,
Well, no, they can all die in a fiery plane crash.
That's not very nice.
Well, I just hope that I don't think it'll actually happen. I just hope that it happens.
They'll be pretty suspect if it happens.
I know.
Anytime soon.
I don't really get near planes, so I can't be really held accountable for my words. But if I was going to say a commercially available beer that is not owned by a multinational conglomerate that's trying to independently crush craft beer and lobby against us and buy us all at the same time, I'd say Genesee Cream Ale because I'm from Syracuse, New York, and that's my go-to 99-cent, 23.5-ounce.
One of my
pounder.
friend's dads, that's what he drinks exclusively.
It's a great beer, and that is a beer that like unlike American adjunct lagers, which is what most of the Miller Coors products and Anheuser-Busch products are, cream ale is an actual style that existed before they just bastardized a bunch of other styles, and and Genesee Cream Ale is the best cream ale I've ever had. Like whether or not you like that style, you can still maybe respect the fact that they're making the best version of it that they can. So
Colin likes the shotgun Natty Bows. Only when they're warm, though.
it gives me a headache.
Yeah. Headache in a can.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
not made here. So that's not.
What is your favorite Maryland beer?
Um,
Non-Goonda.
you can go first because I'm talking too much.
oh, I gotta think about this though.
Okay.
Honestly, the Fear was one of the first beers that made me think, wow, things can taste different than what I thought beer was. I really like pumpkin beers, and I really like Flying Dogs. It was really good, but I don't think that's my favorite. You talk for a second, I'll think.
My current reigning favorite that I've had recently that's not available all the time is RAR has one called Maryland, and we had was it Galaxy Mosaic, maybe dry hop, whatever the last release was. It's a really incredible beer, just very approachable, very smooth, very light. Other than that, I really like Waverly's Oyster Stout that they make is pretty incredible, which he won't eat because he's basically a vegan.
Basically, that seems like it's a pretty hard line.
I'm a very annoying vegetarian.
Yes.
I'll put it like that. Yeah.
Right. So, but that beer is
So
amazing.
a level 11 vegetarian,
not quite vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stage 13 clinger. Yeah.
Oh man, that's
Did
too,
get
that's
way
too
off of
tough.
talking
Yeah.
about the union thing too.
You were sitting there stroking your
Yeah,
beer
it was.
with a thinking face on.
I
You
mean,
still
when
didn't come up with anything yet?
Seven Beauties by Brewer's Art.
Amazing.
I really
The
like that
barrel-aged
beer.
one?
That was really good.
Yeah. Rye barrel aged 7 Beauties. It's just like it was like chocolate and
Yeah.
barrel is amazing.
So, do you guys have a timeline for like a plan worked out when you want to open your own brewery, or is it just when you're able to, it's going to happen?
When we want to is yesterday, but like when we will, that's a good question. So I think we have the marketing and the beer and everything else down. We know
we should open another one of those beers.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Colin looks thirsty.
Let's do Flick, which is a double IPA named after Katie Flickinger, which is one of our tasting room, one of our neighbors and one of our tasting room regulars. But it's a double IPA that we did, and I have to look back here to see what we dry hopped it with. Citric Galaxy and Amarillo, and it says on the back here, hands down the dankest dank you'll ever drink, which is a reference to Pineapple Express, where they say hands down the dopest dope you'll ever smoke. Can't remember what I was talking about though. Beer.
Wow, the timeline.
Oh yeah.
For when Goonda.
Oh yeah. So we're at the point where we've we're loosely planning on what to do. We want to be open by the fall of next year, but we're still making beer where we're at. We're still doing a lot to push our system as hard as we can to make beer on the small system, which is a 1-barrel system. We have some bigger fermenters. And then we're also in talks with Peabody Heights to start maybe doing like a monthly or bi-monthly release out of the Peabody Heights tasting room. We've done 4 16-ounce cans out of there, one off of the Goonda system, 2 of them off the Goonda system, one of them was the Duclaw collaboration Collusion, and then 2 of them were both in Dam, which were Peabody Heights collaboration. So it was a dual branded beer that we made on the big system over there, and we'd like to do more of that. So to answer your question, we really don't have a timeline. We're really bad at that part of this. We know how to make beer. We're making it a pretty excellent product, I think, and we just need to get the financials situated, which means evaluating our brand and what it's worth and starting to do the fundraising and finding a location. And also, as Peter Francho said, there's no dumber place in the entire world. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. There's no dumber place in the entire world to open a brewery than in the state of Maryland in the current situation. And I think that having gone to a bunch of the Reform on Tap meetings, he's absolutely correct. It couldn't be more volatile. And as we saw last year with House Bill 1283, you can open up a brewery like Carly at Attaboy, and then just have them just yank all of your ability to make a profit on the way that you plan immediately, which is awesome. And we want to be in Baltimore, which is the dumbest county or city in the state to open a brewery, because you have really welcoming counties like Frederick, Maryland, and then you have Baltimore that literally is just like, they're like, no, our liquor licenses are too valuable. We don't really want to issue you anymore, even though, this building couldn't be used for anything else other than manufacturing and whatever. So we're working it out, and I have faith that we'll be able to open in Baltimore City and be in a community that we'd like to be, and make Baltimore City a real craft beer destination, as it sort of is. But we can really work hard to be a contributing member to that as well.
Have you considered Frederick?
No.
We have.
Do you know how long it takes to drive here from my house?
No.
It's like an hour.
You can
That's
move.
not that. Yeah.
We both have terrible cars. It wouldn't go well at all.
You can move.
We like where we live.
Yeah, we like
In
Baltimore
Frederick
City.
County has a pamphlet that'll even tell you how to open a brewery.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
The
Baltimore City has Senate representatives that want to tell you how to not open a brewery. So what do you guys have in that?
we have the only senator that voted
against 1283.
Yeah.
And the only craft beer podcast in the state.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, it is, right, Chris?
I think
Literally.
Colin's the fact checker, so
Yeah, that's right. The Uncapped Building .com. The UncappedBuilding.com. You can move into there.
Yeah? Do
The
you guys have
Uncapped
space
building.
here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just set up in
No.
the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, we could put up like a tent in
Yeah.
the backyard.
I think that's how some of your Frederick breweries are operating.
Ooh, shots
Or is that
fired.
or is that a garage door?
There is yes, one in a garage.
And his beer's
But
pretty good.
it is pretty good.
We had it at Maryland Feature Beer Event at DC Beer Week this year.
Oh yeah, they were at the
Remind me,
Meridian Park.
Steinhardt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, their stuff was good.
Yeah. Not everybody's was good, but theirs was.
Ooh, shots
Jesus
fired.
Christ.
This is
Oh no.
the meanest guy.
Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
Nope.
I talked to them already.
Oh, okay.
I'm not one to keep silent, but I'm not one to lambast new brands because they're
That's
putting
probably-
out bad product.
Some really good stuff, though, too.
Yeah, we did have some really good stuff.
Yeah, I want to go and check
Tastes
out
a little better.
Steinhardt's brewery or garage. But that area of Frederick, the garages in those houses aren't quite like on the level of a garage that I would possess.
Yeah.
So
I think his system's is like the same size as ours. So
No, it's not.
No, what size is it?
It's 3 barrels.
Yeah, that's what's bigger.
Dude, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I thought you
yeah.
said it was the
No, I
same
mean
size.
like like we have 5 and 7 barrels of fermentation, but we have a 1 barrel system. So, like all jokes on us. Like we're the ones in the corner playing with our toys. Yeah. So like just to bring it back a little bit, because I'm really bad at staying on one topic. The Union collaboration that we did with them is going to be awesome. We're really excited for this double IPA. They made 60 barrels of it. So if you're wondering if you're going to get to taste it, you will. Especially if you're around Baltimore Beer Week, because that's when we're going to release
So
it.
is it only going to be for that, or will it reach Union's full
I
distribution?
can't even begin to guess. I'll say this: they're probably going to keep as much of it close at hand as possible, because that's where our market is and that's where their market is. And if they can roll through 60 barrels in Beer Week, why ship it across the state? But I'm sure that if your customers in Roast House Pub and White Rabbit Gastro and all the good guys out here in Frederick, if they wanted it, I'm sure they could talk to them about it. But we don't have a name yet, but it is a cool beer. We did a double IPA with a little bit of lactose in it, and so it's going to be a little bit creamier. Not too much, though.
Is that a new style?
That's that milkshake style that we were referencing earlier a little bit. We don't use so much lactose that it tastes like you're drinking sugar. That's not something we're into, but we do use a small percentage just to spike it with some body, because we want to have some body and some heft, but we don't want malt sweetness. That's not really a character that's going to help carry the flavors of the hops all the way through. But then we did no bittering additions. We only did whirlpool additions of hops, and what that means is there's going to be almost no IBUs contributed by the hops. Theoretically, there will be some from the dry hop and things like that, but that's more complicated than it needs to be. But we are it's triple dry hopped, twice in fermentation.
Yeah.
Twice in fermentation and once post fermentation with Vic Secret and Citra, and not Vic Secret, Idaho 7.
Idaho 7.
Yeah, Idaho 7.
It's a very popular hop right now.
Yeah, and we're pretty pumped because we haven't made anything with Idaho 7 before, and we know that Citra will play well with it. So, yeah.
Will it be draft only, or are they going to can it also?
We're going to do very, very limited can release from the brewery, the same way that they've done in the past with 16-ounce cans. We've yet to decide on those numbers, and obviously that's not up to us.
Yeah.
The Union guys got everything covered. We went over there for the collaboration, and just were standing in the way, as if that would be any different at Peabody Heights. There's just you know how to use your system, and we just kind of stood there and took some pictures and drank some beers. We shotgun. They released their new Pilsner. Skipjack is going to be out in stores this week, and so they were canning it that day. Which is like a 12-hour process for Union in their current space. I'm hopeful for their new space that they will be able to do that a little quicker. But then we all went outside, and they had one of those VR 360 cameras, and we all shotgunned beers around the camera, and so that got posted on.
Oh, I
on
saw
the
that.
internet.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
we have one of those.
Do you?
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Graham is an expert in 360 video.
Yeah.
I took a class in everything.
Wow, that's. I mean, I don't know. You could be
graduate
there
level
you go.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. I really I'm so hopeful for your 360 career and all the things that means for you.
So if you want to shotgun beers in the parking lot next to the tent we'll set up for you.
That's a severe possibility.
Yeah, I've got 4 natty bows.
I went to Union for the first time this past weekend.
Wow, you've been missing out.
I have. Well, as you pointed out, it's a long drive to that side of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't leave Frederick often. It's kind of like
There's a good beer scene here.
Yeah.
So
We don't leave Baltimore City. So
it's the beer capital of the East Coast, if you haven't heard that before.
I have heard that before, probably from you, because you're the only person that would ever say that. But yeah, you guys, I mean, Frederick's doing some cool stuff, and then right across the line, you got Larry over at Vanish. Yeah, man, making some great beers too. Talk about a space.
Yeah, that place is beautiful.
If you could make a space like that in Baltimore City, which is not a reality, then we would do that, because it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I can't remember how many, but he's like Larry always likes to say that in like most tap rooms are measured in cubic feet or square feet, and they measure theirs in acres.
Yeah.
They have like 60 acres, or no, not that much, but it's like a ridiculous amount of acreage of tap room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were there for a, I can't remember, a BAM
Master
meeting.
Brewers Association meeting.
There you go, Master Brewers Association meeting, and they're in this like side room that I use with quotes that is literally as large as the tasting room, you know, and they have that just sitting there, and it all opens up, and they do weddings and stuff. It's crazy. It's a beautiful space.
Will you guys be at any of the upcoming beer festivals?
So the one we would like to be at, which is my favorite one, is the Canton Waterfront Festival. I think we're going to be at GABF.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Colorado.
Okay.
So no, but I'm hopeful to be at a bunch of stuff for Baltimore Beer Week this year. We did just whip up a beer. Like I said, we did 2 collaborations last week. One of them was another double IPA, or we do single IPA.
That was single IPA.
Single IPA with Wet City, and that is scheduled to get dry hopped with Fruit Loops and Mosaic and a bunch of other things too. So we'll see. We want to let the beer speak for itself.
What is that going to do to it?
I don't know.
Turn it a weird
How am I
pink
supposed to
color,
know?
presumably. I don't
Yeah.
know.
We might pair it with some berries, some local berries, and
Gooseberries?
no gooseberries. We do have some left. We could put
We have a little bit,
gooseberries in there. But some local berries and stuff too, just to kind of get that. But you know, there's a lot of fruity flavors that come from the hops, and they were like, let's make.
We tried to match it up with some hops there are some hops that already kind of have those, you know, like sweet candied flavors. So figured why not?
Do you have beers entered in GABF, or are you just going to?
We don't. We do not plan that far in advance to be able to get samples out to.
We also
Colorado.
just showing up at any festival is hard for us because one festival day is like 3 weeks of our production in total. So
we don't make
it's
a lot
just,
of beer.
Yeah, so it's hard. But soon, hopefully.
We do have OG in the tank too,
Yeah.
right? So OG will be out again around Beer Week, and so will the Fruit Loop beer with Wet City, which probably will all go to Wet City, aside from maybe an event or two. And then we have a Stout Has No Name barrel aged coming out probably in the next few months too, so that'd be fun.
Can Colin have some of that?
Mm-mm.
I didn't think so.
No.
This has been great.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Do you have any questions?
No, you answered everything. I was going to ask you about the whatever measuring system we were talking about earlier. What's that called? Hector?
Hectoliters.
Hector.
Meaning 100.
Hector from Breaking Bad.
I was trying to make a joke,
Yeah.
but it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
No,
it didn't.
let's see. So you guys have bands?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You can come play at the brewery.
Well,
yeah,
no,
we
what-
never answered that.
Do you guys have how often do you have music?
Well, we had music there this weekend. We did a beer in collaboration with Healthy Harbor. I don't know if you guys from Frederick know who Mr. Trash Wheel is, but he's a very famous figure in Baltimore City.
I've seen pictures of you wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah, actually Liz took that picture when we were doing that podcast. Yeah, so Mr. Trash Wheel is this thing that collects trash out of the harbor. And it caught a snake one time. A giant ball python came up into it out of the water. And so we made this beer called the Lost Python, a Session IPA, which is a collaboration between Peabody Heights and Healthy Harbor. And it's just like a great session poundable summer beer, or all year long if you like something lighter body. But we had the Friends Anniversary, which was the second time we've done a huge party. The first time we did the party, there were 550 people at the brewery that had come through, and this time it was a little less. It was 350, but it was still ridiculous. So we had a live band. Excuse me.
I think it seems like they have a band probably once every couple weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's event based. We do have a stage that we built out of pallets. So
That's cool.
Mhm.
It's like the back of a truck.
A trailer. You
Trailer,
play on a
yes.
trailer.
Yeah, we did that at Old Mother.
hmm.
Yeah,
Well, definitely come by and play. I'm sure they'd be
we're
happy
down.
for it. Yep.
I'm there.
I mean, if
Can
nothing
we
else,
confirm a
you
date
could just
on air
stand
right
over
now?
by our Goonda system and just play, and we'll just go do something else.
Okay, I'll do that, and I'll be ridiculed by Chris the whole time.
So, do you have anything else coming up you want to?
You've already asked him.
No, I
that.
didn't ask
Yes,
that.
you
I asked if
did.
he had any
You asked
He
him.
asked if we were going to
Festivals.
be involved with Beer Week. Okay.
Yes.
No, they said, "Do you have any other
Festivals.
events?"
I
Yeah.
want to hear.
And then whatever GABF is.
I hate you.
That is the Great American Beer Festival
Yes.
in Colorado. We've never been before, and Peabody Heights is sending us out this year, and so we'll be out there. If anybody's listening that has a brewery out there and we want to talk or make some beer while we're there, that'd be really cool too. We're always open to collaborating too. That's something that we love to do. We have a couple more that are in the works. We've done one with Full Tilt for one of the owners' weddings. We did a beer for them. We're done 2 with Wet
Nick.
City. Nick Fertig. He's been on the podcast.
Yep.
And we've also
I love Hops the Cat.
yeah. Well, you're gonna really like Galactic Cat, which is the new one that's
I'm
coming.
gonna
out.
go. That'll be my first time at Peabody Heights.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna
Nice.
go, yeah, I'm
Very
gonna go
cool.
to that
Yeah.
release.
So that's coming up too. Like I said, we're contract brewery, so we make a lot of beer for other people, and that's one of the ones we're excited about. A bunch of cryo hops, which are like lupulin, pelletized lupulin powder, essentially, with
Is
a
that
little
like
bit of vegetable matter.
the next new thing?
It's
Or is that
kind of a
been
combination. So lupulin powder is definitely the next new thing. So they're doing pelletized lupulin powder, but also pelletized with a little bit of vegetable matter, I believe. YCH is making cryo hops, and that's cool because they just interact with the beer a little bit better. So
There's so many words I had no idea what they meant. That you just said.
You can tell I have Colin co-host for his vast beer knowledge.
yeah.
So what do you think of PBR?
Seriously though, do you
See, my questions aren't even taken seriously, Chris.
You
Now
asked
that
some of the
you're-
better questions today, but that was that was the worst.
That was the
That was
worst.
the worst question.
So it's a yes. You like PBR?
so since you're going to GABF, do you have an opinion on
Yeah.
did you happen to listen to the podcast with Jim Caruso about Flying Dog leaving the Brewers Association?
Yes, I did. That was a really informative podcast, especially for industry folks.
No thanks to Chris.
Do you have an opinion on the Brewers Association stance on beer names and those types of things? Like,
I have a beer called Trumpkin Orange and
Yeah.
full of shit.
So
No,
that-
I do not need another organization. The alcohol industry is so heavily regulated. I do not need a non-regulatory system that we are voluntarily a part of, telling us how to name beers and whether or not we can win medals with them and market with their stuff. Like, I get it. I have to defend my brand. Like if you guys just decided to say something. I just made some stupid, really offensive name, and then I tied it to the Uncapped podcast, and you would not appreciate that.
I'd probably be well, I mean, depending, but I'd probably be fine with it.
Maybe not your bosses though.
That is absolutely correct.
Exactly. So, I mean, I've already said a bunch of swear words today that are probably not appropriate for this podcast, but
Yeah,
My-
I didn't know
fine.
we could do that. Are we allowed to do
It's
that?
a name. It's a proper name.
Okay.
It's
So-
used as a noun.
what's interesting about it is that, like, why are we voluntarily asking another regulator to tell us what we can do with our beer names? But at the same time, I also understand that, Goonda, Goonda wins a GABF medal for Trumpkin Orange and full of shit, and now I'm putting their GABF medal on my can with, a tiny little handed, presidential candidate on it or whatever. And I get that they want to defend against that. If they want to have a rule that says we can say whether or not you can market with our brand, I get that.
Yeah.
But that's not who they are. That's not their place. That's not, they're there to assist us and lobby for us and be an advocate for us against, big beer. Why are we infighting about, what the names of our beers are? This is ridiculous. Although there are some beers out there with like really offensive things to women and to minorities
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff. And just stop doing that. That let the capitalist society decide whether or not they're going to support something like that. And
And I kind of fall on that side of it. If the market will decide if that's acceptable.
yeah,
Although the way society's been going, it seems like almost anything's acceptable now, so it probably won't. But there are enough people taking stands against just blatantly misogynistic and racist and
and there's
sexist
stuff
thing.
way over the top too. We've had some friends in Baltimore where they made like a stupid joke, and then they had like these feminist trolls like after their Facebook account, like literally the same thing that happened to us with Trump trolls or whatever. Like every group of people has extremists and trolls, you know what I mean, and they're going to attack your internet presence if you offend them, and that's their right. That's fine, like whatever. But I think that if people cross the line, the industry will handle it. You know what I mean? The industry as a whole, like the buyers won't buy it, the consumer won't buy it.
The beer buyers won't place
Exactly.
it in their stores.
Exactly.
There's a lot of places that will take care of that without adding regulation.
But then there's the troll consumer. I'm thinking specifically of like when the baseball card for Billy Ripken came out. This is a throwback thing, and he's got a baseball bat on his shoulder, and it says F face on the bottom of the baseball bat, and it got released accidentally back when they were releasing mistakes like this in baseball cards to try and drum up support. And the consumers just ate it up, right? And then you have another brand that says, F Tom Brady on the bottom of their can, and the consumers just eat it up. So maybe not, maybe we need to have some someplace, but as Francho said, one of the most regulated industries. Comparing it to any other product, it would be ridiculous for anybody to tell you how to brand milk or how to sell it or how much you could sell or whatever. And, we don't need more regulation, and we definitely don't need it from voluntary groups that we're a part of.
So you agree with Jim?
Mostly, yeah.
But are you guys members?
Goonda is not, but
Okay,
I believe
Peabody
Peabody Heights
Heights
is. But I'd be reaching because I do not know that answer either.
But for I would think even though for Peabody Heights it makes sense for them to be members. They kind of at this point, Flying Dog probably doesn't get much from being a member of the Brewers Association. If they win a gold medal for something, it's probably not going to affect their sales one way or the other at this point.
Not really, but I think that they're contributing members. More than, kind of what you're saying is what are they getting out of being a member? But, what are they contributing as being one of the bigger brands with freedom of speech, being a member that's sitting at the table saying these things like, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this? And why are we letting a bunch of people that should have no control over us making those decisions? When you're a part of the conversation, when you're a part of the membership, I feel like it's a lot easier to influence things than from sitting outside and taking shots. But he also didn't ask to be to have anything to do with it. He just left.
Didn't renew. Yeah,
he just didn't renew, and he was like, whatever. Everyone knows how I feel about this.
Yeah, I made the wrong assumption thinking that they
did it.
That it came out by a press release or something.
No. Yeah, I thought the same thing. The way that information came to me
pretty quickly before we started recording.
About time someone did. So would you ever do you see other people leaving BAM because of this? Do you see other breweries? No.
I mean, who's the biggest player in the state? Flying Dog. So that's who we hear about. But for us, when we have money to be a part of these organizations, which we should
don't have a category that assesses fees for one barrel breweries yet. I don't think.
And it's just they're a really important group of lobbyists, was what I'll call them, for us on the national and local level. They help us influence beer laws. When Union was trying to get growlers legalized in the state of Maryland, they played a big deal into that. And these are really important organizations, and I think that we need to be funding them, so that we have advocates. Because if we didn't have BAM in Maryland, who would have told us about HB 1283 last year?
Yeah,
if that would have gone through the way that Talmadge Branch, that very awesome person who put that bill in, single signer, but couldn't explain to you any of the reasons why this stuff is in there because he didn't write it, the industry lobbyist wrote it. If he just snuck that through and then passed it by the House and then by the Senate and then now it's law, the original bill literally allocated specific times of operation of the brewery.
It would have put a lot of people out of business.
All the Class 5s, all of us. And, we got some things out of that. They technically legalized, contract brewing and stuff like that, and the ability to collaborate and share beer or whatever. Screw those people. Not really into it. We have really dedicated House representatives that are involved with, they hang out at the brewery. They're there weekly or monthly. And they had no idea what was going on because they have other things to do. They have sidewalks and schools to worry about. They do not need to worry about the intricacies of brewing, the brewing industry, and how this bill affects it. And that's how this stuff happens, is because you have lobbyists just submitting stuff, and then the House and the Senate just kind of lets it happen.
Well, even when we had Senator Young on, he even said, as the head of that committee, he was not involved in the amendments written to 1283. They didn't involve him.
Well, he also got hung out to dry because of his stance on it as well. These people need to go, and it's a really hard state to be in because we're gerrymandered the way we are, which I don't disagree or agree with 100% either way, because it's not like other states are going to un-gerrymander themselves in the same way that we need to. But the point is, we need leadership and representatives that are pro-business, and we're not asking that you have the distributorship and all their lobbyists, and all they keep saying is, these are in place to protect the consumer, these are in place to protect the consumer, and all the consumer is saying is, I want to go to a brewery and buy a pint like whenever I want, and I want to be able to take beer to go, and we all know how that directly influences sales in liquor stores. They pretend to take a blind eye to the fact that once we grow big enough where we can't self-distribute, we're going to need to have a partner in the distribution network. We're not undoing the 3-tier system. We're specifically just trying to give the consumer what the consumer is explicitly asking for. And we have, you have the state and state representatives who are saying, we don't answer to the industry, we don't answer. You do answer to? You answer to the consumer. And the consumer is the person who's voting for you, and the consumer is the one that's demanding to be able to have, freer, less regulated beer industry so that they can get what they want when they want it. And no one's being protected from that except the distributors and the big business. I was going to say, no,
there is one group that is the only ones who don't need to be protected.
sitting at the Reform on Tap meetings and just listening to the political speech coming out of the distributors. I've learned a lot about franchise law and how that affected people in the 30s and the 40s and whatever. Picked up a lot of knowledge, all to point to the original point. We were like, this is stupid, you shouldn't be doing this. And they were like, well, these things are in place for historical reasons. And we're like, yeah, well, now they don't need to be there anymore.
Yeah, that was a different time. It's a much different situation.
Absolutely. And it's just like, I went to the last one at Jailbreak, and they said the question was, should grocery stores be able to sell beer? And they gave all these statistics about how it's going to hurt craft beer and how it's going to hurt local liquor stores and how it's going to hurt. And most of the beer industry said, yeah, that would be bad for us if the national brands were able to go to Whole Foods and Giant and Harris Teeter and whatever and just submit floor plans for their beer, and we just get left out of it. And then the distributors say, this is really bad for you guys. This would be really bad for us, because their lobbyists between the distributors and the liquor stores do not want more liquor licenses to sell beer, and they don't want people to have the ease of going into a liquor store or going into a grocery store to get their six-pack with their food instead of going to the liquor store. And so everyone's just sitting there going, we agree, everybody agrees. No, they don't. 70 to 80% of the voting public, of the buying public, wants to be able to buy beer in grocery stores. Would that be bad for Goonda Beersmiths? I do not care. I'm not here to have the government regulate things to defend an existing brand over the needs and the wants of the consumer. That's going to hurt liquor stores. I do not care. It's, when the car was invented, the guy that made horseshoes, he had to find something else to do. And it's just like, we're here to protect existing businesses. It's really hard for us to say we need to change regulation that's going to make it easier for us to make beer and sell it directly to the consumer, while we're also telling the consumer, we're saying the consumer wants to be able to come to the brewery. Consumer wants to be able to, they also want to be able to go to the grocery store and pick up beer too. How can I on one hand say that we need to open this up to make it easier for consumers to buy beer directly from us, and at the same time tell them the consumers, for their own safety and for the safety of small businesses, they shouldn't be able to buy it in grocery stores? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would think unless grocery stores put the effort in to actually have a large selection of craft beer and...
won't that be up to the consumer? Won't they decide what to buy?
Well, but a grocery store could get by with just selling large... Mm-hmm.
And then consumers like us and our consumers
continue to go to the small...
They'll go to Wine Source, they'll go to Whitey's, they're going to go to Wet City, they're going to go to Max's. You don't think Max's is still going to have a line for Belgian Beer Fest because the Harris Teeter is going to be selling Bud Light 30 racks?
Yeah, I think that's the only effect it would have on the independently owned shops is they may sell less Bud Light and a little less Natty Boh.
Maybe they should. Maybe they should see what's coming, which is change, which is, these breweries getting more focus and more ability to sell directly to consumer, and maybe they need to adapt what their approach is. Stop filling their entire cooler with 30 racks of Coors Light and start filling their doors with bombers of local craft beer. And collect, like we have Wet City and Max's, we have Wine Source and Whitey's, Canton Crossing, all of these places, Drink Up and Timonium, that reach out to us constantly, that not only want our product because it sells, they also want to contribute to us. They want to come and make beer with us and sell it specifically to their consumer. That seems like an adapted model, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, from watching and listening the Reform on Tap and then just people discussing 1283 afterwards, it seems like the only group that truly has a problem with it is the distributors. Like
the liquor store lobby is the biggest one.
Yeah, but like independent liquor stores owners don't seem as...
You might have missed it at Jailbreak. There were 300 liquor store owners there.
Oh, were there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, because they're very much against the
1,000% against it. Because they're just you're taking what is a commodity, which is a liquor license, and you're making it available freer.
Yeah, but the only thing they're against is the
grocery
the grocery store part of it. They're not against breweries expanding or breweries being able to sell more beer or any of the...
But that's what's funny. You said, you made a good point. I've heard you say it before. The liquor stores do not care because they're going to profit off of craft beer regardless. Yeah. Although, just like when we had this conversation with Talmud Branch and whoever else is in the leadership that wrote this bill, and we said, then who's writing this and what does this mean? And they just shrug their shoulders. They go, I don't know. And then you're like, oh, so this only benefits one group of people, and that's the people who are trying to divide and conquer alcohol in the state of Maryland, and that's the lobbyists. So the people who the liquor stores are saying, literally, like I gave an interview with, I forget, one of the television stations last year when we were protesting this bill with Rob Goss from Whitey's. We stood next to each other and we talked about how this bill was bad for craft beer and it's bad for liquor stores and it's bad. They're still supporting these lobbyists. And I'm not saying Rob is. Rob is the beer buyer. He's an amazing person and an advocate for craft beer. But these people that are literally looking at me in the eye and saying, we don't care what you do. Go ahead, make more craft beer. Do what you're going to do. It's gonna spread out. It's going to raise the tides. It's going to do all these things. Their lobbyist group that represents them directly is the only group of people. The distributors and the liquor store lobbyists are the two groups of people that are anti, breweries being able to sell more beer, being able to self-distribute more beer. And they do not represent the consumer, and they do not represent what's good for Maryland in terms of taxing and tourism. And they also do not represent what the liquor stores want.
Yeah. So
what are they doing?
They're defending the distributor monopolies.
100%.
All right, well, this has been fun. I feel like we've how long have we been going now?
We tend to take whatever your normal amount of time is and then just run right through that, run right through the end zone and just keep running.
So I don't think I have anything more. Do you?
No.
You've been very talkative.
I know. Well, now you have me thinking about that collaboration between Weiss and Keystone Light. I think we all want that.
You guys have Weiss out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't. It's a Pennsylvania thing. Well, when I was in college in Pennsylvania, we had Weiss.
Where'd you go to college?
A Valley Forge area, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
I'm not familiar with there.
Do you know, what's the brewery? Sly Fox. Sly Fox? They're from Phoenixville.
I've had their beer. I've never. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah.
I look forward to when Goonda Beersmith beer will be on tap at Roast House Pub. I'm sure you'll make that happen soon.
Yeah, we're going to try. And just, you can follow us. The best way to keep in touch, people are constantly like, where can I get your beer? You can't get our beer because we make so little of it. And then when it comes out, it goes really quickly. So unless you see us that we're going to be at a festival, we're going to be at an event, those are kind of the only places to get our beer unless we do small drops to Alewife and Max's and things like that. So the best way to stay in touch with where we're going on tap is to follow us on Instagram at Goonda Beer, GOONDABEER. And then I'm on social media too, all at TJ Scoutin. And Rahul is mildly...
I just followed all the Goonda stuff so I can keep track of what's going on, but I don't really do anything else.
Yeah, so keep in touch with us on Facebook and send us a message if we get a lot of messages from accounts that want our beer, and we try to stay focused in the Baltimore area while we're trying to grow our brand. But we're always open to collaborating with breweries, collaborating with liquor stores and wineries and meaderies and anybody that wants to get involved with us. And so reach out to us on there or through email. And we look forward to making a lot more delicious liquid for everybody in the state of Maryland.
I look forward to drinking it. And once again, thank you for coming out here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Cheers.